Hello and welcome to another edition of Open Mic. In the next half hour we explore the life of Carlton captain Anthony Kouta. He tells of growing up barracking for the enemy, yes, Collingwood, and deciding to play AFL rather than pursue a promising athletics career. Take us back to when you were a young lad. Who did you barrack for?
I actually barracked for Collingwood. I shouldn't be saying that.
So many Carlton people, I think, had their origins with the allegiance to Collingwood. Did you have a hero? Any specific player? Anyone that you wore, whose number you wore on your back?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Back then, I guess my mother wasn't too happy when we were watching footy on television, so it was a lot. We listened to it on radio a lot with my father, and there wasn't one really specific player, but there was quite a number of players who I admired back then. Ricky Barham and Rene Kink and Billy Picken to Peter Dacos and Darren Malone, all those sort of guys that I loved when I was growing up, and loved the black and white because when I was playing under 10s for East Thomastown, we were black and white then too, so I guess from that I barracked for Collingwood. And
when the opportunity came to go to Carlton, I mean, did that tie to Collingwood mean anything to you? Or did you just embrace the chance to play league footy?
Yeah, I think I was thrilled that Carlton, gave me the invitation to go and train. This was back at under 15 level. And I guess I always wanted to play for Collingwood, but my older brother Paul barracked for Carlton, so I was really happy to go down and train for Carlton, and still barracked for Collingwood for a lot longer after that.
Did you?
Until probably 1990 when they won their premiership back then. I celebrated for
until 1990. My memory says you were playing for Carlton Seniors at about that time.
No, 1992. I was actually first on the senior list in 1991, so that's when I think I sort of slowly faded away from barracking for Collingwood.
Yeah, you're an outstanding junior athlete. What prompted you to pick football ahead of an athletics career?
Yeah, I've been asked that quite a few times, Mike, and I think at the end of the day the team aspect probably got me over the line, and I think also football being, back then it was mainly Victorian where it was played, I think that sort of helped me to play footy and stick with footy, because I know with athletics it's a bit of a lonely sport and you've got to travel overseas a lot. Yeah, I was pretty close to my family, so I think I really wanted to stay here and play footy. A couple
of your contemporaries in athletics, Tim Forsyth, who won a bronze medal at Olympic level, and Kyle Vanderkuyp, who you competed against in the hurdles. False modesty aside, were you at that level when you were a junior?
Yeah, I competed against Tim Forsyth in the high jump. I was national champion under 15s, under 16s, and the year he won his national titles, which was the last time I competed in the high jump, we competed, I think it was in Adelaide, yeah it was, and he won that competition with a jump of 2.16 metres, and I came third on a count back at jumping 2.8 metres, which was my best back then. Some
of us aren't as good on the metrics as we were on the old measure. What's 2.8 in feet and inches?
I used to actually look at Justin Madden. I think he was 2.6 metres or 2.8 metres, so it was about his sort of height.
Jumping over the top of Justin Madden, it puts into context, doesn't it? Is that with or without the helmet?
Without.
And the hurdles, I mean, Vanderkuyp and yourself, did you ever go head to head?
Yeah, Kyle was 2 years older than me. He was a great hurdler, as we all know. He competed in the Olympics and he was a national champion, juniors and seniors and all that. But he was 2 years older than me. I competed against him once where he won and I came second. And I was the national champion under 17s where I broke the Australian record, and I think I held that for probably 9 years or so. So it was a pretty good day for me back then. And
you mentioned your mother before. Was she reluctant to have her boys play this rough, tough game of Australian football?
Yeah, she was, Mike. It's funny you say that, but the first time my older brother Paul and I went down to East Thomastown to play footy, to train actually the night, we didn't tell my mother because we knew she wouldn't have been happy about it.
Yeah.
So we came home, but we came home late and she didn't know where we were. So she didn't want us to play footy, and she told us, no, don't go and play, and really didn't support it at the start. But our father took us to every game the first year. But from the second year onwards, my mother hasn't missed a game since then, and loves the game and lives for it now.
How did you broach the subject of needing a pair of boots or a jumper? Or
look, I think that they were very generous to us and always put us first. So, if we needed boots, I mean, we never got the expensive boots. We got the boots, the cheap boots, whatever they could afford back then.
Bulldog, you're credited with discovering this gem that we now know as Anthony Kouta. Tell us how it happened.
At the time I was working, I was doing a bit of recruiting for Carlton Football Club at the time Valley League, and I had to go to Layla for a couple of weeks in a row. I seen this big gangly kid running around. He was doing quite well, and we got him down to Carlton with the under-15 squad, and from then on he's just honed all his skills.
Well, what appealed to you when you first saw him? What was it? What aspects?
Just his athleticism, enthusiasm, just a natural he was really.
And how many times did you need to see him before you knew that he was going to be a player?
I think I've seen him about 3 times.
What sort of boy was he? Was he shy?
He was shy, but he did come to training with the girls sometimes.
Your memories of early on, was he was he playing key position, or where was he actually
No, to be quite honest,
himself?
no, he wasn't a goal kicker or anything like that. He just, where the action was, he had to be. And that's all it was. He just followed the ball around and got a lot of kicks.
Yeah, well done. It's a keen eye, and I think the Blues will be very happy with what you saw all those years ago.
Yeah, I think he was a natural. If it wasn't me, it would have been somebody else picked him up.
Thanks, Bulldog.
Thank you.
Now, you're a massive man in physical terms, I think about 100 kilos. What weight were you when you started at Princess Park?
I think when I first turned up to Optus, I would have been in the low 80s, 81, 82 kilos. So the next pre-season, the start of 92, I made an emphasis on doing my weights seriously, and I think I put on about 8 kilos or so. It certainly affected my running. I remember the tan run, when I first got there, I ran in 14:43. The next year when I put on about 8 or 9 kilos, my first run I ran 17:22.
Really? Yeah.
And I remember Parker coming up to me, David Parkin, and saying, "Kouta, you're never going to make it as a senior footballer running those sort of times." And I thought I must have been sick or something. I can't be running 3 minutes slower than what I did the year before. And went out there again and ran 16 something. So I think I realised after that it was the weight that I'd put on certainly affected my endurance running.
Now, we all know how excited and proud you were to be named captain of the Carlton Football Club in November last year. How frustrating has it been to sort of be so long before you got to lead the team out?
Yeah, look, I'm very proud to be named captain, and you know, when Dennis gave me the phone call, the initial phone call, I was surprised, I must admit, and a bit nervous about it. And he said to me, "Look, could have a bit of a think about it." I said, "Mate, there's nothing to think about. I've been part of the club as a junior, played under 15s, under 19s, reserves and seniors, so been probably more than half my life, you know, at the Carlton Footy Club, and it's such a great club, and I've been blessed. So to be captain was obviously a great honour, and now it's very frustrating. In round one, I was hoping to be out there and playing, but unfortunately re-tore the hamstring tendon that I tore during the Wizard Cup game, and it's been frustrating, really has.
Do you feel cheated? I mean, in my view, you were the best player in the competition in 2000, and then you did your knee. I mean, do you believe that you were just robbed of the peak years of your football career?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part, Mike, because I know I hit my best form back then, 99, 2000, 2001, but since then there's been a lot of injuries and it's very frustrating. And you know, when you're missing so much footy, it takes you a lot longer to get back and start playing good footy. And I can recall in year 2001, it took me a long time, but eventually the last 6 or 7 games I played really good games before I injured my knee again in the second week of the finals against Richmond. So after that I had to have the knee reconstruction, so I missed basically all of 2002. So it is very frustrating. I thought I'd worked the game out in some ways and how hard you had to work and all those things, and was playing good footy, so it is pretty hard.
Well, I know you're playing good footy. I know Greg Williams, who was one of your heroes at Carlton, said that he couldn't remember seeing anyone play a better stretch of football than you did for about 3 months in 2000. I mean, was there anything, I guess at the time you must have thought, there's nothing I can't do out here?
Oh, I never really thought that, but yeah, you do start believing, and the confidence you get from playing good games week in, week out really do help you. And you know, before that I was probably a little bit inconsistent, but during 99 and 2000, 2001 found a lot of consistency, which was very important. And you know, obviously back then the team was playing good footy too, and that helped. I had great players around me, you know, in the midfield, forward and back, and you know, a team like that always does help. So it was a good time.
Now, tell me who are the best players that you've seen and played with at Carlton, and the best players in the competition.
Oh look, as you said, Greg Williams I think was outstanding. When he came to the club, I think it was back in 1992, he was an incredible footballer. You know, he was so smart and his skills was unbelievable. He'd hit you on the chest every time. As soon as you seen Greg get the ball, you just knew you were going to get one right on the chest. He was a true professional. He's had vision that was incredible. And I can still recall the days when he'd be in and under the pack and he'd find someone that you just wouldn't think was even there, and the crowd were going crazy. He was definitely probably the best player I'd seen at Carlton. And of course you get your other guys like Stephen Kernahan, who was such a great leader, good bloke on and off the field. And you know, when it came to finals, he was a man that always stood up, and I think that was always important, which made him even a better player than what he was. Outside of Carlton, I'd probably say Gary Ablett was probably the most exciting player that I sort of like to watch. I think the goals that he kicked were incredible, and they called him the God, and I reckon it was a good reason why they did. He certainly was.
You know, when you're on the ground and you see someone like Ablett, and we all sort of just are in amazement of the level of his talents. Do you sometimes find yourself just watching and being a bit of a spectator when he's on song?
Yeah, you do. You find it amazing that some of the things that he did do, I mean, the goals that he kicked from the boundary line or snapped over his head were incredible. And as you said, you tend to just stand there and watch him play footy instead of concentrating on the game.
You never clapped him, did you?
No, never did. But I can remember Ange Crystal was the same. He loved Peter Dacos. And when he first started playing, he was alongside Peter playing against him. And I think after the time he was just watching Peter Dacos, doing his magical things.
Talking about Ange, where is he?
Ange is actually in Athens at the moment. He's working for a cleaning company. He's supervising, I think, 15 people. He went away last year in August, late August. He felt as though he needed to get away and travel overseas, where he's got a few family members there, and he's staying with a few friends and doesn't intend on coming back at the moment. So I certainly miss him, and I think he'll be part of the Athens Olympics over there.
Now you mentioned Athens and the Olympics come round. I know it's sort of past now, but say when you were younger and it was an Olympic year, did your mind ever go back to what might have been had you stuck with athletics?
Yeah, definitely, Mike. I used to always watch athletic highlights and used to tape the high jumpers, the hurdlers, and just watch them sitting there as a junior, watching them and admiring them. And the Olympics, I used to know everything about the background, the history of the Olympics, because I used to read up on all the books and things like that. I've certainly forgotten about it all now. But yeah, it's definitely when I was a youngster back, in 96, 92 and all that, year 2000, I went to the Olympics and certainly watched and always thought, where could I have gone? But it is a very difficult sport. And certainly, I don't think you get chances. I've had a few injuries with footy. If you had those injuries in athletics, they'll certainly leave you behind, that's for sure.
Go back to the football career. You've played in almost every spot on the ground because you're so versatile. Is there one player that stands out that consistently gave you trouble?
Yeah, I've always said Matthew Richardson. I played him twice at full back. He was at full forward, and I think the guy's certainly got a lot of talent. He's been very unlucky with the amount of injuries he's had. But certainly every second of the game that I was playing on him, I was fearing him. He had great endurance and great speed, and he's so big and strong. I just couldn't keep up with him. So no matter where he was, I always thought, oh no, here we go, he's going to get the ball.
Matty, Anthony Kouta has said you were the toughest opponent he's had. That's one positive to come out of a bleak start to the year for the Richmond Footy Club.
Yeah, well, I'll take that. It hasn't been great for our club so far this year, and myself getting injuries, so a bit of positive press. It's good, I reckon.
Yeah. Now you've spent 10 years, probably 10 or 11 years, playing and watching Kouta up close, and played on him a couple of times. What makes him the player he is?
Oh, look, I think like a lot of those sort of players that talent, he's got that freakish ability to be able to do things nobody else can do. Like, he's one of the only players you see that grabs the ball one-handed, and he's the instigator of that. And I think it's those little things like that set him apart. But he's just so athletic, he's strong, powerful man, and it's just a complete package overall.
Has the knee injury, have you noticed a difference in Kouta post-knee than the pre-knee?
Yeah, I guess it does have an impact, and he did his knee later on in his footy career, I guess. Whereas if you do a knee early in your career, I reckon you sort of regain everything you had. But I guess later in your career it is a little bit harder. But I mean, I think he's still won a BNF, hasn't he? After he's done his knee.
But different style of players.
Yeah, but he seemed to be just more of an on-baller in around, and he became a really sensational clearance player, I think, since he did his knee. Whereas before that, he was more the athletic type player. So
where did he sit in 2000? Remember there was a 3-month period. I don't know whether you played on him at that time, but a 3-month period in which he was probably almost the best player in the competition. Yeah,
I remember the period, and there's no doubt at that time he certainly was the best player in the comp. No one could go near him, and that's why people go and watch the footy. But it's just like he'd have 16, 17 marks, 30 touches, and kick a couple of goals. Players who can do that are very rare.
When you were ripping into him and creating that impression in his mind that you were the toughest opponent that he'd had, you were playing what that sort of spot between full forward and centre-half forward and running?
Yeah, I was playing, sort of about 40 metres out and pushing up and back. It's a good role to play, but you've got to be fully fit to be playing that sort of role. And I played on Kouta a couple of times, and it was always a great challenge, that's for sure.
And you're both very athletic blokes. Did you actually think that if you ran as hard as you can, that you might test him in that endurance area? Is he strong there in endurance?
Oh well, he's right up there. I wouldn't know how his times are in running and that goes, but he's obviously played on ball a lot, so he's obviously very fit. Yeah, when you get on a goal like that, it does probably give you just that little bit of extra spur to try and go well, because if you can beat a player like that, you've had a reasonable day. So you really enjoy the challenge of the Koutas and these sort of blokes.
So when you outmarked him those times that he was so impressed with Matthew, did you hold the ball up and say, Kouta, here it is, mate?
No, I didn't. Too much respect for the man to do that. But as I said, I loved the challenge of playing on Anthony, and you never know, I might play on him again one day.
You must find it funny then to sort of see that love-hate relationship that Richmond supporters have for Richo.
Yeah, I still believe Matthew's a very important part in that team, and I reckon when he's not out there, they're not going to win as many games. They certainly need him out there and firing. And on his day, as we all know, he's probably the best footballer going around. And
that good?
Yeah, I think so. I think the things that he does, he's certainly, he's the best footballer around when he's up and going and at his best.
Let me take you back to the last game last year. I suspect, it's just a suspicion, that game against the Kangaroos in the final round must have been the most humiliating day that you would have spent in the Carlton Guernsey. Fair comment?
Yeah, it was. It was a very tough year, Mike. 2002, we finished on the bottom of the ladder, but I was out for most of the year, I think, playing 3 games. But yeah, last year was a very tough year on all of us mentally, and to walk off round 22 being beaten by that much against the Kangaroos was a very hard day. And I guess you can look at Andrew McCain, that's probably one of the big reasons why he probably didn't go on and keep playing.
You got any theories about, I mean, I know it's always a combination of lots of things, but was there any one thing in your mind that you thought just went amiss last year?
I think mentally all year it was very tough on us, and I think we got to the last game and I think we're pretty happy to sort of get there, and once we were there we probably just wanted the game to be over and done with and the season over and done with too, which was probably the wrong attitude really to bring out there, because I think it embarrassed the supporters and the club itself, and especially Dennis as a coach. So
a few of the Rude boys were a bit vocal that day, weren't they?
Look, I think any team who's winning by over 100 points can they're allowed to do and say whatever they like.
Now you are, I think, by popular view, you're a gentle soul, you're a friendly person. Does that sort of attitude, I'm not sure it's an attitude, but personality trait, ever have a negative impact on the ground? And were you ever bullied or sort of intimidated because you go on so easygoing?
Not really. I think I've been okay through my career. There's times, I guess, as a youngster that they want to test you out and put guys in you that are just going to stand in you all day, and that's part and parcel of the game where you've got to learn, and in order to become more mature and more, through experience, you learn how to deal with all those sort of things. And
have you ever lost your cool?
Yeah, there's been a couple of times, where I have, yeah.
On the footy ground, yeah?
Yeah.
You want to share one with us?
Oh, look, I reckon Stephen Crediuk, in my earlier days, really he was a very tight player and very hard, as we all know, and played the way, that he had to play. He had to play pretty tough, and he was very frustrating because he never really let you play your game, and as a youngster...
More information, eh? What do players like that do to get you into such a level of frustration?
They don't let you really... run at the ball, attack the ball and play the game. I mean, they're always there bumping you and stopping you from running and things like that. But as you go through experience and get a bit older, you learn how to handle all those sort of things, and you learn that that's part of the game. And I think when you're a good player, that other teams are going to try to do anything to stop you from playing.
So do the ball players get enough protection from the umpires?
Yeah, I think at times they probably don't, Mike. There's probably times when they've been okay, but I think you can see certain times in games where ball players are stopped from doing what they should be allowed to do, and that is to be able to take the ball. If a player's not watching the ball and watching the opponent and stopping them from trying to get the ball, I think that's completely wrong.
Should be a free kick?
I think so, yeah. The guy is fair enough. You can play on a person, but you should be able to attack the ball and play the game, and you're going to try to stop them, but the opponent should be watching the ball also. When
you were a kid, I mean, you've Kouta Fedes is Greek origin. Were you subjected to any ethnic-based comments as you were growing up?
Where I lived, there was a lot of ethnics around, a lot of Australians, so it was a mixed sort of culture. And yeah, you always had your little bits of, people saying, this and that. But I've never really taken too much offence to it. I've always been proud to be an ethnic, and always proud to say that I am one. And I grew up with ethnics, and I grew up with Australians and the mix, and I only see us as humans. And if people want to torment you or say verbally things that that they want to say, well, I just tend to ignore it.
Does it happen on the ground anymore?
Mike, in all honesty, I haven't really faced too much of it. Yeah, in the crowd I might hear a few people say a few things, but certainly players, I haven't really had any experience of it.
Crowd behaviour's sort of been in vogue of recent times with the attitude of lots of supporters to coaches of teams that are struggling. Is it the same as it's always been, or has it got worse, do you think?
It's probably gotten worse. I remember in '98 when we had lost, I think, 9 of our first 10 games, and Parko coming down from the coach's box and everyone booing him, and we turned our season around. It's very difficult for coaches, and when the supporters, they get frustrated, and you can understand too because they want to see their team succeed. But it's pretty hard, isn't it, really?
You've played a lot of football with Lance Whitnell. He's been subjected to a lot of media scrutiny and probably scrutiny from your own supporters of recent times. Where's he at? How's he going?
Look, Lance, he came at a time when Stephen Kernan was finishing his career and did a remarkable job as a young kid at centre-half forward. His year 2000 was amazing. The amount of goals he kicked in, he was a very important part in our team. And I guess in the last few years, Lance has had a few injuries, which have certainly set him back. He's still very important to our team. He's such a smart player, but I think at the moment we're using him as centre-half forward, centre-half back. He's certainly not settled. And I still believe he's got a big future ahead of him, Lance, and if he works hard enough and really wants it, he's going to still be an important part to our team. Have
you spoken to him one-on-one about where he's at?
I think Lance is pretty smart in that way. I mean, he's got his family and his father who played before that, and he's got a pretty good head on him, Lance. And I hope he does the right thing and keeps working hard. And he's certainly got a knee problem at the moment, which is stopping him from probably training as much.
Is that the one that he had pre-season?
Yeah, that's the one.
Do you enjoy the adulation that goes with you're the captain of one of Australia's most famous and successful sporting clubs? Do you enjoy the fact that so many people recognise you and know who you are?
At the start, I think you enjoy it as a young kid when a couple of people recognise you. Hey, you going, Kouta? And you think, oh, geez, you know who I am. It was very tough mid-90s when we were playing really good footy and we became like a very popular team, and Ange and I all of a sudden had a lot of supporters. I think it was pretty tough. A lot of supporters used to come to training and ask for autographs. It used to take us half an hour to get to the car and another half an hour to travel home. It was pretty tough to handle back then, but I think now that I'm a lot older, a lot more experienced, and those sort of things have died off, I enjoy it now and try to spend time with supporters and sign autographs and do as much as I can.
There is a fine line though, isn't there, between being public property and having your privacy. I know the Roos played the Swans in Canberra recently, and Ricky Ponting was there, and a guy came up to him, handed him a mobile phone and said, "Say hello to my mother." I mean, is there a line where you can draw and sort of say, look, I'm happy to sort of sign an autograph and say hello, but you're going too far?
Yeah, and I've had that happen to me a few times too, where they say, talk to this person on the phone, but you talk to the person, they don't even know who it is anyway. So you tell them that, look, don't worry. But yeah, it is. And your private life too, you try to keep it, as private as you possibly can, and people want to know everything about you, and it is pretty tough. And you know the supporters that are good supporters that you can talk to, and there's others that probably want to know too much.
Now you're 31, which I would love to say I was, but you are 31. In footy terms, it's getting near the twilight of your career. You mentioned coaching. Have you got any sort of aspirations at all to be involved in AFL level when you finish your football playing days?
If you had have asked me that probably 2 years ago, Mike, I probably would have said no, but I'm really starting to enjoy it more now, and if there's something there, certainly at the end of my career, I'll certainly look at it. Whether it's local footy, whether it's AFL, I'll definitely look at it.
Have you changed since you've been appointed captain? I mean, I think there was a theory that you just went about your business in your younger days and played your footy, participated in the club, but sort of were fairly quiet. Has that changed?
Yeah, I think I've had to change. Being the captain now, I feel as though I'm more obliged to say things, whereas before I just sort of stayed away from those sort of things, let the captains and other boys have their say and just stayed quiet. But now I'm a bit more vocal and a bit more, I guess, out there now compared to what I was before. And I think as a captain it's pretty important that you come across that way. And
can you give a spray? Do you do that?
I'm probably not the best at that, Mike. I don't like to give too many sprays, but of course if they're not doing the right thing and not putting in 100%, then you go and have a word to them and try to push them along. And I think you get your feel on the players that are putting in 100% to the guys that aren't. And it's more so the younger players that probably don't train as hard as what they should, and they're the guys that you sort of try to push along.
It's been a good career. Well, it's been better than that. It's been a great career. How long do you think is left in it?
I still feel as though my body's good. Yeah, I've had this hamstring problem, but I had a great pre-season, and it is frustrating that I'm not out there playing, and I know it's going to take a bit of time before hopefully I hit a bit of good form. I've got 2 years after this on my contract, and hopefully, you know, I can get to the end and play as many games as I possibly can and try to play the best that I can.
I'm glad you mentioned contract. I saved this till last. There was the popular story at the time was when you renewed your contract that you were going to play 5 years of football for $5 million. Is that ballpark? Was that, how was the accuracy of that claim?
Oh look, there's no doubt it was a very good contract. It was a 5-year contract that David Ellison, my manager, who's been terrific over the years, negotiated for me.
Was it the hero worship that motivated you to give him that monstrous contract? Apparently, I mean, rumour has it that it was worth about $4 million for 5 years.
Well, you know, you're not far out, it's somewhere in that region, but, you know, I don't hero worship him. I was there when he first came to the club as a young man. He couldn't play football very well. He was just a magnificent athlete, and we at Carlton taught him how to play football, and he just became an out-and-out champion. As Lee Matthews said, you know, they asked him if you wanted to clone one player in the AFL, who would you clone, Lee? And everybody's waiting for him to talk about one of his Brisbane players, and he just said Kouta, and he's right.
You've always regarded Stephen Kernahan as the best player in your time as president of Carlton. Where does Kouta sit in the pantheon of Carlton greats?
Well, in my book, I ranked him 7th in my time, but he's still playing. And I do say in the book that he could move up the list. It's very sad, actually, that he's had so much injury, but he's probably the only player I've seen, he and Williams and Kernahan, who can actually take a game by the throat. If you go back to the 1999 preliminary final, and who will ever forget it if you're a Carlton supporter?
That's your favourite memory, isn't it?
Well, I also saw him, Carlton didn't beat West Coast by a point at Optus one day, Kouta did. And Kouta won that day in 1999. I mean, he was just phenomenal.
When he was cut down with that knee injury in 2000, people like me who are neutral, I would have thought he was the best player in the competition at that time.
I think he was. Remember, 92,000 came to round 21, Carlton and Essendon. Essendon had won 20 games, Carlton had won 13, and both Bradley and Kouta got injured that night, and it ruined our chance to win the flag. But I just hope now he's captain that he gets a real opportunity to show his great skills, because he is brilliant. There's nobody, he's the one player in the AFL, I think, that you cannot tag up on. And that's, you know, even Hurd, I mean, it's hard to stop Hurd, but Kouta is impossible to match up on.
Were you embarrassed when you were dubbed the $1 Million Man?
Yeah, I was embarrassed because I never felt as though, you know, I should be the highest paid player. I know there's other better players out there that have done great things in their career, and I still believe I've given the club a lot too, and at the end of the day I think it all evens itself out, and the club is happy now. I'm still happy with what I'm getting, and we can move on and play some footy now, hopefully.
Good luck for the rest of the season, Anthony.
Thanks, Mike.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Coming up next in part 2, we meet Kouta's family and explain why the number 43 is still on his back. So you asked for 43?
No, I was presented with it, but always kept it for that reason, because it meant something to me.
What the hell are you doing? I mean, you've got one possession so far. Play some footy that'll get us on classic quarters.
I didn't even know there was such a show.
That shows how much you know about Fox footy.
Greater investment in education can only work in our favour. Only in our favour. I mean, would we really want more money invested in benefits while people are still leaving school without qualification? Surely, ladies and gentlemen, that money is better spent on more university places.
Make your opinion count. Sky News Active Election 04. Press your red button to vote.
The Fox Footy Vault brings you 4 decades of memorable moments, incredible marks, and great goals. What a goal! The Fox Footy Vault, all summer on Fox Footy Channel.
Welcome to part 2 of Open Mic. We've seen the man behind the footballer. Now let's take a closer look at Anthony Kouta, father, husband, brother and son. Collar and tie, Anthony. So there's more to life than football?
Yeah, there is, Mike. I 2-3 years ago decided to study a diploma of financial planning, and it's going very slowly, but it is slowly progressing.
Is that just to manage your own money, or do you plan to sort of go into general practice?
Outside of footy, if nothing comes of it, I guess I'll have something behind me that I've completed a financial planning course. But I think it's pretty important too to manage your money. I think nowadays AFL footballers earn really good money. It's important that you know what you're doing with it, where to invest it, and how long you should invest it, and all those sort of things. So that's certainly helped me.
Well, we're here in the boardroom of the Commercial Advisory Group with the boss, Adrian Gleeson, and his star cadet, Anthony Kouta. Welcome, Mr. Gleeson.
Thanks, Mike. Pleasure to be here.
How's the boy going?
Yeah, actually, I've just reintroduced myself to him, so I haven't seen him for a few weeks, being injured and spending a bit of time in the rehab, so it's good to see him back in the office.
What role does he perform here?
Quite varied. I guess Anthony's, he's studying financial planning. We're in accounting financial planning practice, and Anthony's done 3 units of the 8 of the financial planning, so he's now working on his 4th. This gives him a bit of an all-round understanding of what financial planning is all about, and I guess working in an office environment, which is a little bit different to a football environment.
Which raises the question of the importance of a career post-football for you blokes. I mean, you've gone on and done something.
Yeah, I think so, Mike. It's pretty important. Carlton, they really instilled that strong work ethic, I guess, on the field, and it was also off the field. So, back when we were playing, the money was good, and we had a good lifestyle, but certainly you had to have a career to support that, the ongoing income needs, I guess, of your family.
Now, Anthony said before that you're one of his heroes when he arrived at Optus Oval. Can you recall any early memories of the young Kouta?
Probably it's very kind of you, Anthony, saying that, but one of the, I guess, early memories of Anthony was his ability to pick the ball up one hand like a tennis ball. It's
an unusual style, isn't it? I mean, there's very, very few players before him and now that play the Kouta way when he's up and running.
No, there's not too many on song when Anthony's up and going that they've got the ability or the class, I suppose.
It's a perfect lead into a question that Anthony wanted to ask you, but he asked me if I would. Right. Can he have a pay rise?
I think Anthony's doing quite well at the moment without actually getting a pay rise, mate. If he actually turned up to work a bit more often than he does, we might think about giving him a bit of a pay rise, but I think he's going okay at the moment.
That's great. Adrian, nice to see you, and I hope that you continue to have a fatherly interest in the developments in the commercial arena of one Anthony Kouta.
Thanks, Mike.
Anthony, your father Jim passed away early in 1998. I know you were very close. What sort of impact did that have on your life at the time?
Yeah, Mike, that was very, very tough. You always think as a young kid your father's going to be there forever, and he got ill towards the end of '97 where he got diagnosed with lung cancer. And we found it very hard as a family ourselves because he was our father, my father, who I loved and supported me all throughout my life. And it's a very cruel death, and it's a very slow process. And the way he passed away was very hard on all of us. I can recall the house had a lot of silence every time we'd come back from hospital, or I'd come home from training. I'd just think, geez, I hope he's all right, And I know it affected my footy in '98, that's for sure, because my pre-season I spent focused on my father, not on my footy, and '98 was probably the worst year I'd ever had, and certainly after halfway through, and I can recall an article by you, Mike, when you said they should drop me, which was fair enough. I'd finished, I think, with 5 possessions that day and not playing good footy at all. I thought, hang on, I've got to buckle down here now and start thinking about my future, and I think my father would have wanted that.
I'm sorry about that story. They made me write it.
They made you.
How old was your father?
He was 58.
58?
Yeah, so I thought he was still a bit young when he passed away, and he wanted to. I guess when I look back, he watched us win a premiership in '95, which he was over the moon about, and never got to see probably my best footy after that. But he would have been proud, I think, up there and watching down and looking down on me.
Was there one thing, one event, or one person that actually sort of got your mind right after that and sort of told you, well, these things happen and in life, and you've got to then put your head down and knuckle down to what your life's about?
Yeah, look, I had good family and friend support back then, but I think Barry Mitchell and Wayne Britton really were the two keys on helping me through the tough times and where I basically was struggling with my footy, and Mitch and Brits were there by my side, and I did a heap of extra work with them to get myself fitter, and I think by the end of the year I was playing pretty good footy.
I must compliment you on on the affection and the time you showed to a young girl who was fighting a terminal illness. We saw some photos in the paper, and I remember thinking, reading those, I thought there's so much criticism directed at AFL players of what they don't do, and yet they don't get a lot of credit for the time they spend and the love that they give to their supporters.
Yeah, Brooke was a special girl. I met her through a family friend who introduced me to Brooke, who was struggling at that time with cancer. And being through it myself, I know how tough it is on the family. You can hear stories, but until you're actually affected through your family, you know, you can never understand it. So, yeah, I spent time with Brooke. She found it very difficult. I had to go in there and help her through chemotherapy. I had to sit there at one occasion with her because she didn't really want to do it. She just wanted to avoid the chemotherapy. And she'd been through it the one time before and thought maybe she can get through without it. But unfortunately, Brooke fought all the way to the end, but you know, was overcome by that by the cancer. And you know, I went to her funeral, and her family were fantastic. So, you know, I gave her everything that I could back then.
Well done.
Thanks.
Kouta also is a man about town, so we joined him for a coffee in one of his favourite cafes in cosmopolitan Brunswick Street.
Next week.
Oh, good. I look forward to it.
Mate. Yeah. A couple of coffees, mate.
What are you doing here?
Well, mate, I don't earn any more money anymore, so I've got to push coffees to make a living these days. How are you?
Good to see you. You know Anthony?
How are you, mate?
How are you?
All right.
Sit down.
Do you not mind if I have a seat with you guys?
Love to see you.
You're not talking about anything too important?
You know a bit about this place. Tell us about your early memories.
Yeah, my earliest memory of Kouta was I was sitting up in the Heatley stand just before the seniors and watching the reserves, and I saw this skinny, cooler-headed blonde kid. Yeah, I looked at him, I thought, oh, this kid's, you know, got a bit of a future, but couldn't have imagined, you know, how good he was going to be at that stage.
Did you take much of an interest in him when he did come through? I mean, you were 5 or 6 years older than him.
Yeah, I did actually. There was, you know, a few of us there, and Kouta and Ange, Christo and myself, we sort of, you know, hung about together. And I mean, I was a bit older than those guys, but I sort of took them under my wing a little bit, and you know what it was like, sort of being an ethnic boy. You know, growing up in this sort of environment, so yeah, and you know, both of them are great guys.
How was he, Anth, when you were young?
And Mill was terrific. I mean, you always remember the guys that gave you a little bit of time, and Mill was certainly one of them, especially for Ange and I. In '95, he spent a lot of time with us before games talking to us. So you always remember that, and we've stayed friends ever since.
Ange, Christo, welcome to Open Mic. Now, where are you and what are you doing?
Well, you wouldn't believe it, mate. I'm in Athens and I'm enjoying it. And what am I doing? My God, I don't know where to start. I'm actually working for a great company by the name of Clean Event, actually derived, you know, from Melbourne.
So is it permanent? Are you there to stay, or are you just visiting?
It was a holiday at first, and I just thought I'll see how long I can last holidaying. And then Clean Event came up and approached me and asked me if I could have a job, and I thought if I wanted a job, and I took it.
It's a long time since you've had this much time away from your old mate Anthony, isn't it?
Yes, Mr. Kouta Feedy, that's right. I mean, we used to live in each other's pockets.
Do you still speak regularly?
Absolutely. Probably about 2 days ago, I think I logged onto the net, and they said that Kouta's career is over, and I thought, you're kidding. So I gave him a quick buzz, and it was a bit of a hoax, because he said, yeah, actually, they want to kick me out. They want me to, you know, pay 50% of my wage back. And I said, well, that's pretty fair. You're not even playing and you're earning 1.5.
So that was the first you realised that there was a story in the Herald Sun, actually, that he'd hurt his hamstring again and perhaps his season was over, and you read that on the net.
Well, I actually spoke to him the Tuesday before training, and then I read it Wednesday, and then rang him on Wednesday and said, what's going on? You know, he never told me. He goes, yes, I did, you peanut, I told you. And
take us back to your earliest memories of the bloke who became your best mate.
Let's start with barbecues. He'd have a barbecue, or not a barbecue, he'd have a dinner get-together and organise all the youngsters. Every Monday we'd get different kids out there, you know, the first and second year players. And then I actually followed suit as well, and I'd do it on a Sunday. But and that was the good old days when, you know, I actually miss Mrs. Kouta Feedy's cuisine, because it was delightful. It was beautiful. The funny thing was, he never wanted to leave home, especially pre-season. He'd always wanted to stay, you know, in Thomastown. He goes, no, I don't want to leave. I want to stay in Thomastown, you know, with Mum and Dad and the brothers. And like every pre-season, I'd have to push him and wind him up and say, look, let's just travel the world. You know, it's only for a few weeks or so, and you know, and then there's memories like at the end of it all, and now he's actually patting me on the back.
What did you think when he was made captain of the Mighty Blues?
It was sensational news. I mean, I'm pretty sure he won't mind me saying this, but he always wanted to be the captain of the Carlton Football Club.
Yeah.
But no, it was great for him too. So, and like to lead such a, I mean, at that stage as well, in his career and in the footy circles at Carlton, I mean, you know, we needed someone that was, you know, big in stature as well as, you know, great mindset and, you know, great work ethic as well. So, I mean, good luck to him.
Nice to catch up with you, Andrew. I hope you win a medal at the Olympics, mate.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Why is he the right choice to be the Carlton captain?
Look, I'm glad you asked me that question because I've been a very strong advocate of Anthony being captain, and I even remember, I reckon 5 or 6 years ago, when Kernahan retired, I was very adamant with Sticks and Williams and Colin Kinnear. And I just said to him, I said, at that time, I said, he should be made captain now. You know, like they made Sticks captain after his second year, I felt that Anthony would have been a great captain. But, you know, in the end, I suppose, you know, he was made captain. I felt a bit too late in the piece. I certainly think he should have been made captain straight after Sticks retired. And as it's proved, you know, he's a very popular captain. And I
was going to ask you about that. Have you known a player in your time connected with Carlton who's been more popular with the rank and file supporters than Anthony?
No. Well, I honestly can't remember the Jaselenko days. I was too young before that era. But just looking through the crowd, I mean, you know, in most eras, with the exception of Ablett, you know, you'd see there'd be a scattering of numbers on the backs of kids. But, you know, during his time, you know, I think there was a 90% 10 or 90, you know, 43 against any other number. So
43 and 13, I believe, are the most popular.
Well, 13 got a couple of runs in here and there. Mostly from my Lebanese cousins.
John Elliott, you love Kouta, don't you?
Mike, I do love Kouta because not only is he a champion footballer, he's a wonderful person. And if all footballers were like Kouta, there'd never be any off-field trouble and you'd just have a wonderful club.
Now, you clearly have a sort of a lot of affection, a deep affection for Kouta the man, apart from the footballer. What he is, it doesn't seem that the fame doesn't seem to have spoilt him at all.
I think that's probably his greatest attribute. I mean, a lot of great footballers, it goes to their head a bit and they become a bit self-important and they love the adulation. Kouta is no different to when he walked into Carlton as a young man today. When you talk to him, he's just the same fella and he's just a top quality person. I don't know whether I would have ever, I was surprised when he was made captain.
I was going to ask you that, yeah.
But Pagan's told me that he's just taken the leadership as part of his, you know, what he's got to do. And in hindsight, I think it's a wonderful appointment. We just need to get him out on the track playing, and he'll be a better player because he's now captain than he's ever been, I think.
Okay, well, you two played in the Premiership together and you also had some very fond memories of some overseas trips, didn't you? Tell us about the Rio expedition.
Rio was my second last footy trip I went on, and Matty Allen actually read Ronnie Biggs's book. He was living in Rio at the time and he wrote him a letter saying, look, we're a bunch of footballers, we're coming up to Rio, we're going to visit you. Didn't get a reply. Then the real estate agent knew him and gave us his number. So when we got to Rio, Matty rang him and said, look, we're going to come along. He said, yeah, no worries, boys, come along. We'll charge you $50 a head for a barbecue and a few beers. I think there was about 20 of us at the time and 4 or 5 taxi loads rocked up there. Unfortunately, our taxi driver got a bit lost. Anyway, it should have been 20 minutes taxi drive, you know, 45 minutes later we were still lost.
So who are you with?
Well, Luke R. Sullivan, Earl Sporting, Adrian Gleeson and myself. Anyway, we got this really narrow, steep cobblestone road and the taxi driver's turned right into it and all of a sudden I've just noticed there's the guy on the bottom of the hill had a gun, machine gun. And the taxi driver, I could see the taxi driver was nervous about the whole experience and we had no idea what was going on. We were warned about this before we left Australia that don't get off the beaten track there. So the guy with the gun came on the rear side window and his machine gun and he just looked at us in quite a serious way and then another guy appeared from nowhere with another machine gun and he was just giving us this look like any second he was just going to kill us. You know? And I don't know if it was Ronnie Biggs's name that the taxi driver mentioned that got us out of it, but eventually he gave us directions how to get to Ronnie Biggs's place. And when we got there, I thought Ronnie was going to say, don't worry about it, boys, that happens every day. But he said, you're really lucky. He said, I'm surprised you didn't get killed. And only at that time that it hit home to me how lucky we were when he said that.
Geez, you would have been popular, taking this bloke away at his age then.
Oh, yeah,
and having him
Jesus.
inducted, never
Well, that's,
returning.
I don't know how old you were at that time, but that was,
I would have been 23 back then.
Yeah.
And I remember Mike sitting there, all of us waiting for these guys to turn up, and it took them so long. We're thinking, what's happening to these guys? When you're seeing the guys walk in pale-faced, you thought, hang on a second, like we were all laughing, but thought, hang on, what's happened here? When the guys told us the story, we just all shocked and amazed of what could happen on a trip away where it should be all fun. But something as simple as that can cost you your life.
Well, it's very nice of you to join us, Mill. Catch up with an old friend, and thanks for sharing your memories with us.
No worries. I just wish, I was earning as much money as him, that's all.
We all do. On the rare days that you have some free time, how do you spend it? What's your favourite pursuit outside of football?
Outside, well, I come into work whenever I get a chance to. Lately I've been playing a bit of golf, but I'm a bit of a hacker, Mike. I'm not too good at it.
You've got some ex-teammates that are pretty good at it. Williams, Kernahan, Bradley.
Yeah, they're all terrific golfers and they love their golf, and I've got actually teammates at the moment who go out there every week, and there's I think 5 of them who have a big competition every week who are really good golfers and take it pretty seriously.
Tell us about your family situation. You're married, you've got one child?
Yep, I'm married to Susie. We got married 2 years ago nearly now, and we had our first child, Jamie, last January 21st, 3 days after my birthday. And he's certainly been a joy to our lives. And
did it help, given the problems you had with your body, that sort of having a diversion in your life and a new member in the family, did that help?
Yeah, certainly. Now, I mean, when you get home and you have your bad days, but you see him and he's all smiling and he runs towards you, well, you forget about all your problems. And, when you're there playing with him all the time. And
how are his knees?
Oh, well, hopefully a bit better than his old man's anyway.
Yeah. Now, Anna, Anthony's the hero of the Greek community, but in fact there's some Italian blood in the family, isn't there?
That's it. Yeah.
And that's you. You were born in Italy?
North Italy.
Yeah. So does Italy get enough credit for him or not, or did the Greeks take all the credit?
Yeah, I think so.
There's not much right up in the Il Globo, mate.
No, because then I not much in the Italian.
Now, when he was a little boy, and you've got three sons, when they wanted to play football, how did you react to that?
Oh, I was happy. Well, when they started, no. I was happy going the beginning. Then after, I follow them.
Yeah, and you go every week?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get up and yell and...
Oh, yeah, of course.
What about when someone says something bad about number 43?
I don't like that. Say to me, bullying me, I hear somebody behind me.
Do you ever say anything?
Yeah, sometimes I did.
She does.
Does she?
Slaps him sometimes.
Does she really? Taking number 43 aside, who's your favourite Carlton player? Just him?
She likes them all though.
I like the number because it's something part of me.
Yeah. What do you mean? What's the significance of 43?
My mum was born in 1943. That's why I always kept the number 43.
Is that what you? So you asked for 43?
No. I was presented with it, but I always kept it for that reason because it meant something to me.
And then I said, even a small number, I said, no, I'll leave it that. I said, this is my...
She was very controlling, huh?
Anna, you'd be very proud that your son has joined the list of captains at Carlton with Jezelenko and Kernahan and people like that?
Really? I think he deserves it.
Yeah. Did you have any interest in football before the boys played? No. No. Your son says you're very good in the garden.
Yes, I do that, yeah. I was used to knitting, now no more, but the garden's still on.
You used to make a few dresses?
Anthony says you're very good on the dance floor.
Well, yes. Yes.
Paul, you were the first of the boys to get to an age where you could decide whether you wanted to play footy. How far did you go in your footy?
I finished up at Preston in the VFA. After I was cut from the list at Carlton in the 19s and the reserves.
So you played under 19s consistently, and how many games in the seconds?
So I played a few games in the seconds.
Can we be specific?
No, there was one game.
Oh, there was one, I see. Did you happen to play together that day?
Yeah, we did in that game, and Paul actually played a very good game. He surprised me, but I didn't get a kick, I don't think, that day. But Paul was a very good, consistent under 19s player. He's very tough and very hard at the ball, unlike myself.
Paul, one of the trademarks of the Anthony Kouta game style is the one-handed pickup. Where did he learn that?
He learned it from me.
From you?
Yeah. Back in the early ages at primary school.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So there was a bit of flair in the elder Kouta Feedies, was there?
Yeah. I think it's just it's a family trait.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just a big claw down and up it comes, yeah?
His teacher actually wrote a card to Paul at the end of the year. Is that right, Paul? That, you know, the Kouta, the guy who picks up the football with one hand.
And
so he was the original.
And dodges a few players.
Okay, well there you go.
I reckon you got a bad deal at Carlton. I think they might have taken the wrong Kouta Feedies. When Paul was chopped, did that... do you have any misgivings about staying at this footy club and flying the family flag?
Oh, I mean, I was hurt when Paul, wasn't asked to stay on because I thought he had the ability to keep playing at that level. But, you know, I had to move on. And, you know, the family obviously wanted me to keep going and not stop because my brother got the cut.
Now, when they were growing up, Anna, did the elder boys fight much?
Yeah, but not that really, because they was really busy with the homework, athletic, football.
The homework?
Yeah.
Not pretended, Mike. We had
I see them all the time in the study.
And he's in his room, Mike, just pretending he's doing his homework.
Yeah.
When someone walks past him, pretending he's reading his books.
Paul, you, the two brothers both go to the football. What happens when someone says something disparaging about your little brother?
We've had 2 incidents in the past, but mainly it's not bad, but we've had 2 in the past. And we've nearly got caught in a bit of a scuffle.
When you hear it though, do you have to check yourself and sort of say, look, I won't get involved here, I've just heard it, I don't like it, but I'll let it go?
Yeah. Let it go.
That's the best thing to do.
So Anthony, big test for you. When was the big day?
Actually, I'll let Susie answer that one.
Because you can't remember.
We got married on the 5th of October 2002.
And where at?
The church was actually in the city.
St Patrick's
St.
Cathedral.
Patrick's,
You're doing well with this. Do you remember your wife's name?
Yeah, Susie. Father was Father Gerard Dowling. Yeah, he's a great guy, North Melbourne supporter actually. Yeah. And the reception was in Brighton.
Now you'd had 2002, was there a knee injury around that time?
Yeah, it was during that season when I came back from my knee reconstruction. I had another operation on my medial.
Limping up the aisle?
No, it wasn't too bad that day.
No, it's pretty good.
I had to dance, so I had to get the leg right.
Oh, you did you?
Yeah.
It's in the family, is it, the dancing?
The dancing is slightly in the family.
But I must say he's got 2 left feet though.
He's a boy, we all have.
He doesn't really know to dance.
Oh, here we go.
And proud of it.
That's right, that's right.
Susie, what's it like being married to a sex symbol?
I actually don't see Anthony as a sex symbol. He's my husband, so I don't quite look at him that way.
Did you ever see him as a sex symbol?
Well, no, because I didn't really know who he was at the beginning, so...
You didn't?
No.
So who hit on who all those years ago?
Be honest, Susie.
Well, he gave me his number, so I followed it up.
Okay, so that was at first meeting he gave you his number?
Yeah.
Smooth operator, isn't he?
He is, actually.
What's he like in the domestic scene? What's he like with your little boy?
Well, he's actually quite surprised me because in the beginning I thought I wouldn't see that side of him because he didn't really show too much of that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been pretty good actually. Every minute that he gets from when he in between training, he comes up and spends time with the family whenever he can.
The big test of all men is the nappies. What's he like with the nappies?
He's really good actually.
Did he need some coaxing, or was he all right from the start?
He did a bit of watching. He watched a bit, and then he's pretty good with them now.
Good.
He's good.
Is that all true and accurate?
Yeah, it took a little while. I was a bit hesitant at the start, but now I'm a guru, I think, at it. I do it quite often now, actually.
Yeah.
Were you a footy fan before you crossed paths with the great man? No. Did you know who he was?
Not really, because I've never been brought up around football, so footy to me was very foreign. So I went to my first game when I met Anthony.
So when you got the napkin that said, "I'm Anthony Kouta Feedies and I'd like to take you out," what did you think?
Well, we actually seen each other though, Mike, when I did hand over the number.
Oh, well, he didn't introduce himself like that. It was more like, my name's Anthony. Not, I'm Anthony the footballer.
So you've got another little one on the way?
We do, actually, yeah.
Due when?
It's actually due on the 21st of October.
Mm-hmm. How many are you planning? Are you planning any specific number?
Oh, I would just take it as it comes.
I think Susie wants me to start playing a bit more footy now.
Yeah.
Instead of being at home resting.
That's right.
Yeah. So what, and Anthony was telling us before about this the other part of his life about the financial planning? You're pleased that there's going to be a career to follow after football?
I am actually, because I think it's important to have another interest other than football, because these days, with the amount of injuries that occur with footballers, those types of careers I think are short-lived.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good that he's following up on something that he has a fond interest in.
Yeah. How's he been, Susie, with the injury and the late start to the season? I mean, how the frustrations of that impacted at home?
Look, it has been really frustrating on him, you know, because he wants to get back out and play. But he's trying to cope well with it, and he's doing well. So he's, you know, going headstrong.
What concerns you most about the world that your children are going to grow into?
Probably the drugs that are out there. I think it's pretty clear that there's a lot happening out there, and certainly in my time I didn't see any of that. I certainly stayed away from all that.
Did it exist though? When you
It existed, as in, yeah, I heard people talk about it, never visually seen it myself, and always try to hang around people that weren't involved with those sort of things, and I think I did okay out of it, because I know with high school, you know, the guys that would go around the shed and smoke and things like that, I just avoided all that and just try to keep level-headed, and that's, I think, the scary part for the kids as they grow up now, that when you go out there and the things that are happening, and, you know, the fights and the stabbings, you worry about those sort of things, because you don't want to see your kids, you know, having problems like that.
So do you think the values come from home? I mean, you've got a strong set of values. Do you think you get them from your family, or it's just you alone?
Yeah, no, I think the family, yeah, definitely. My parents were pretty strict. They didn't really allow us to go to parties or things like that when we were young. I was basically stayed at home and played sport whenever we could, and just stayed with my older brother Paul and my younger brother Christian. We just hung out together until basically we were 18, and then they gave us the freedom to go out.
I've really enjoyed my time with the Kouta family. I just wonder whether there's...
You can ask him a few more questions.
Well, I just wonder whether you came in and said you want the starring role. It's a group thing, mate.
Yeah, no,
there's no I in team. No I in team.
Exactly right, Mike. Yeah. Exactly right.
But you can have the last word, mate.
Yeah, what's that?
Whatever you want it to be. What would you like it to be?
Let me think. Well, we can talk about
Tell me about your hobbies, Christian.
My hobbies? I've got plenty of hobbies.
Collecting cards.
Yeah, I collect things. You know, I'm a collector.
Where will you go when we finish this little chat? What lies in store for you from there?
I'll probably go take a mum to Northland Shopping Centre.
Yeah? Yeah?
Go buy some... You have to buy something, man. Can't remember what she had to buy. And then probably go home, she'll whip me up some food.
Yeah?
And then probably sleep a bit, because it's my day off today.
Yeah? Day off, and what about tomorrow? What will you do?
Tomorrow I go to uni.
Do you?
Study a bit, yeah.
What are you doing?
I'm doing human movement.
Good for you.
Yeah. And then I want to hopefully get onto journalism. Yeah. I'm inspired.
I wouldn't, mate.
I'm inspired.
No one likes you. You're the only bloke, you're the first bloke I've met that's happy with what I do.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking from my heart here, Mike. I hope you're not just saying that.
You're a chance, mate. You're going to have a cadetship as soon as you want it.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, thank you for sharing your time with us, and we've enjoyed it.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for joining me in what was an in-depth look at the man they call Kouta. See you next time on Open Mic.